Before we get started, anybody want to back away from the artillery shells? Hi, welcome back. It is the 4th of July, and I decided not so glorious 4th would be the way to put it because, whew, and I'm doing the stream a little bit early because were I to do it later, you would, well, I'd be drowned out by the artillery barrages happening and the office window would be rattling. So it's going to be wonderful. We have a red flag warning. We have nice breezy winds and low humidity. It's just right for a forest fire. Yay. Yay. I mean, the 4th is nice. I just don't like the fireworks, and neither does Boxnoggin, who is not in here with me because he is already on his anti-anxiety meds, sacked out on one of his dog beds, so he's going to be fine. But let's get to the point of doing this. Let me set my timer. 15 minutes of answering reader questions from my handy-dandy journal here. I did not last time answer reader RG's question completely. He wanted to ask about Taken, which I call Weasel Boy. And what he wanted to ask about is, since I'd been talking about books that fit into the same timeline at different points, he wanted to know if that was part of, for example, the Danny Valentine series or part of the Kismet series. And no, Weasel Boy is in a completely different class of his own. His universe might lie right alongside of Blood Calls, though, even though the vampires in the Taken book are not. I originally meant to write a few more, but that never happened. So we only get the one Wolverine book. So sorry about that, RG. I did not answer your question last time because I got so interested in talking about, Weasel Boy and stuffed taxidermy Wolverines and whatnot. I forgot to tell you what I'm drinking. It's ice water because I clearly do not need any more caffeine. Driving home from the grocer's today, there was a little pebble that got stuck in a brake shoe and the car was making this ungodly noise, and that was fun. That was very fun. So no more caffeine for me for a while. Right, the next question is from reader Mrs. M, and asking if Saul Dust Circle in the Kismet series has a single brother. Saul is an only child. No, he's not an only child. He only has sisters. That's right, he only has sisters, which is part of why he weirds Jill out so much, because he's like, oh yes, I grew up with girls, it's fine. She's like, I'm not a girl. So they have interesting lenses. So sadly, no, Saul does not have a single brother. It's interesting because when the Kismet series was coming out, I kept getting objections, I suppose, to Saul's characterization. And if Saul and Jill's genders had been reversed, there would have been no question. It just would have been a cookie cutter, she's the hard-boiled private eye, and he's the dame that, the lovely secretary, the loving secretary. But since their genders were reversed, that caused, I guess, some people a little bit of cognitive dissonance, which I'm not even sorry for. I do like Saul. I was never certain if Saul and Jill were going to make it all the way through the series, because even though Jill is not a broken character, Danny Valentine is profoundly broken, and Jill Kismet is not. She has the opposite problem. She is incapable of breaking, which creates problems all of its own. But at the same time, being in a relationship with a profoundly broken person is stressful. Being in a relationship with somebody who has a job where they cannot break and is unbreakable, and Jill is used to being judge, jury, and executioner all the time. Her judgment has to be correct. With these life and death you can tell that even though I do not need more caffeine, my brain certainly wants it. So even in these life or death situations, Jill she's used to being obeyed without question, or she puts a bullet in it. So that's difficult too. And I don't think it would have worked with anybody but Saul. So I wasn't certain they were going to make it until the very last scene of the last book. If you think your heart was in your mouth, reading it, writing it, until I got to that very last scene where they're in the pickup truck, I was thinking that Saul might change his mind. I was thinking that Jill might be, no, this isn't working, and which she kind of does, but in that very self-sacrificing Jill way, like, oh no, this isn't working, I must save you from me. So it's like, honey, Jilly Beans, sit down. She's a very intense person, difficult to have inside my head, far preferable to Perry. So no, Saul does not have a single brother. Sorry about that. Reader Mrs. M also wanted to know about the Prince in Black, the Man in Black's name in Moon's Night, and that is one of those things that I'm just not going to tell. I don't have an answer for you unless it's, what do you think it is? What do you think Jin named him? So, talking about Moon's Night, I wrote that book during lockdown. I wrote it at white heat. It wanted to claw its way out of me, so I finally just threw up my hands and said, okay, fine, I'm writing portal fantasy now. This is where I'm living now. And it was not going to be published. I didn't think anybody would want to read it. I didn't think anybody would want, this weird little portal fantasy. But I did send it to a couple beta readers, a couple people who were having some trouble with lockdown on their own. And I thought, this is what I do. I've got this book. Here, let me give you this book. Will this help? This is all I have. I wander up with a collection of novels and be like, hey, here, I made these for you. So I sent it over to the beta readers saying, look, it's completely brainless. It's a little portal fantasy. And what I got back from them is, no, people need to read this. People need the escape. People need some of the themes that are in this book. It's deeper than you're giving it credit for. Lily, come on. So I didn't quite believe them, but then I sent it to my agent, and my agent said the same thing, although she didn't really think that trad or small press or whatever was. Basically, my agent reassured me that it didn't suck. So Moon's Night would literally not be out in the world. It would be still sitting in my hard drive among a few other books, if not for those beta readers. So if you liked Jin's adventure is such a strong way to put it. Well, I guess she does get chased by monsters. She does ride a giant shapeshifted wolf. She does see the gates and if you're thinking that the gates bore a strange resemblance to the Sphinxes and the gate asking the question of the Sphinxes in the movie Neverending Story, you're correct, because that's pretty much one of the mental images I had there. The door going into the whispering and then the further door up to the gates was very much somebody in chat says that they're so glad that I listened to them about Moon's Night, and me too. I often say that if even one person is comforted by the book or finds something of use in it, or if it saves even one person from feeling lonely, then all the trouble and heartache and months of hard work and the various frustrations of publishing are all more than worth it. So I'm really glad. But as far as the Man in Black's name, and yes, Man in Black is kind of a Johnny Cash reference. It's also kind of a nod to Hades and Persephone. You can put the Hades and Persephone filter over Moon's Night and view the story that way. That's not where I aimed it. I'm not even sure I did any conscious aiming at all. The story wanted to be told. It wanted to be told in a specific way. It wanted certain things to happen, and it wanted me to be in certain places in the story while they were happening. So yeah, I guess I was just so stressed out by lockdown. I mean, whomst among us was not, that the story just decided it was its time, muscled to the front of the line, and basically pushed itself, like in Ghost, with all the ghosts lined up outside Eda Mae's door. So I have also gotten a lot of questions lately, not from a specific reader. There have been too many of you for me to list your names or your nom de plumes or even your initials out, but asking about the Hostage to Empire books. And they fall into kind of two categories, and one is the category of, great books, thank you, I'm so glad I found them, which they were not supposed to be. We originally intended for them to be a kind of closed pseudonym so that we could see if I could write epic fantasy and have it come out under a gender neutral name, and that maybe that would do something for the books marketing wise. And I wanted to write something different, and I wanted to do it under a different name. I do have several pseudonyms, some closed, some open. But things did not go well for those books. Those books had a very difficult birth, so thank you for reading them. I'm glad that a number of people seem to be discovering them now. The other large portion of replies I get is, what about Taksheen? Does Taksheen ever find love again? Is he ever happy again? Taksheen is a complex character, and I don't think that what he felt for Komoriala was really love. It seemed to me more like possessiveness, and he's complex and he's damaged and he doesn't express affection very well, so he's very controlling, and I don't think it would have ended up being a healthy marriage. I mean, Yala would certainly have done her best, but so as for what happens afterward, for the writer, Taksheen does not. He spends his life basically propping up his younger brother's rule and being the wolf of Shan, and going back and forth between Shan and the own royal court, and he's married to his work for the rest of it. However, if you love Taksheen as a character, if you just can't let him go, great. If you want to go write fanfic about Taksheen, I give you absolute permission. Go do it. Go have fun with it. Now, unfortunately, I can't read it. So, go have fun, but please don't send it to me. Please don't ask me to read it. And the reasons why I can't do that are legal. It's just a writer working in publishing thing. However, I encourage this. Write your fanfic. Do it all. Sail all the ships. Do what makes you happy. If the ending of a story doesn't make you happy, go write your own. Please do this. I encourage you to do this. Not least because when I was in second grade, I was so mad at the way I think A Little Golden Book ended that I decided I was going to rewrite it, and that is kind of why I am who I am today. So all these books that you guys love came about because young me was furious at the way his story ended, and I was dead determined to go write my own. So do your own. Feel free. If you ever need permission to play with any of my characters or my worlds, go do it. Have fun. I love fanfic. Do it. Now, don't lift chunks of text wholesale and put them in things like happened with the Squirrel Tear plagiarism thing. Please don't do that. But if you want to do fanfic, do it. Sail all your ships. I love fanfic. And please understand that when I say don't send it to me, the only reason is legal, and I am cheering you on from the sidelines. I'm cheering myself hoarse. So please do it. If you think Taksheen got a raw deal, he absolutely did. If you want to fix that, if that makes you mad, I can imagine no greater compliment than you still wanting to spend time in these worlds where I was for the first, only, and lonely observer. Like, that is so great. Please do it. Imagine me screaming and cheering you on from the sidelines, even if I, can't come out on the pitch and congratulate you personally, or even really watch the game. So, a lot of you have been writing in about that. That is my answer on that. What kind of time do we have left here? Oh, we only have a couple minutes. There was another writer in the comments I think on YouTube, saying when I mentioned that I work a lot with kitchen timers and I set a lot of timers to get through writing sessions and daily life chore sessions, I set all sorts of timers. And they say, you know, timers don't really work for me, but post-its do. That's great too. So I have a lot of post-its and index cards. Like this in particular is I've written down all the clan lords for the Council of Calburn on this one little index card, and it's living next to my desktop now. And I know that I probably should in Scrivener it has all sorts of tools for putting all your character sheets in there, but there's just something about writing it on paper. So much of life is learning how to game yourself into doing what you need to do. And if it takes timers, great. If it takes post-its, great. If it takes, you know, whatever it takes, learning how to game yourself is awesome. Just don't feel bad because you have to learn how to situate yourself and your various weirdnesses, because we all do. Everybody does. It's not just you, I promise. So there are a lot of other questions, but we are out of time. As usual, you can send me questions in YouTube comments. You can send me questions through my website, although sometimes I don't get to them because the queue is long and spam-filled. There's also social media. I am on Mastodon, I'm on Blue Sky, I'm on Tumblr. I'm not sure if I'm going to stay on Blue Sky. And that is the timer officially. So if you have questions, those are the ways that you can submit them. And it seems like you guys really like these short 15-minute shots, so I will continue doing them, I suppose. We haven't had a single firework burst yet, but it's almost noon and I suspect they're about to start. So the rest of my 4th will be, frankly, downing edibles and lying on the couch. So I have high hopes for the rest of the day. I hope your holiday is grand. If you are not in the US, it will probably be a lot quieter, and I hope your Tuesday goes well. So until next time, wash your hands, wear your masks, hydrate, be kind to yourselves and to each other. And that's about it. Ta-ta.